Hello and welcome to Athena's Palace and this video about Saturn in Capricorn. And I'm going to go back in time a little bit to Saturn in Capricorn, which the cycle was 2017 through 2020 was when Saturn transited Capricorn. The reason I'm choosing to go back is because it's important to set up the current cycle of Saturn in Aquarius and then the next cycle of Saturn in Pisces. By looking back at the themes of the past, we have an ability to see where we're coming from and where we're going more clearly. So I'll start with just a little summary of the Saturn archetype. Saturn's energetic is about boundaries, and often the energy of Saturn feels restrictive. And Saturn was the gatekeeper; he was the bringer of form, and Saturn often helps us provide structure and keeping of order in whatever it is we're trying to create. Saturn can also represent deep thoughts and having self-discipline and persevering through situations. And Saturn often represents bureaucracy, authority figures, the law, administrators, and also maturity in our life. So our elders are representing the Saturn 9 energy. So Saturn is also the keeper of karma, so how we bring forward our lives, Saturn will reflect that in what comes to us. So this notion of we reap what we sow is very applicable to Saturn. And under Saturn's influence, we face our fears, we learn to establish ourselves in our lives and build our world, build our careers, build our families. It's that efforts that we put forth with time that really represents our Saturn efforts throughout our lifetime. And if we ignore our responsibilities, Saturn is going to be there to remind us that we need to get going with what we need to take care of. So he can sometimes be considered harsh because of that, but he can also reward. So putting in the time and the effort, after that time and effort, you're going to be rewarded for your efforts with time. So I think that Saturn is also a giver of great things and great abundance in the end if you put in the efforts. So in ancient times, Saturn was the last planet out that humanity could see in the night sky. They couldn't see Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto. So Saturn very much represented the outer limit or the outer boundary of what is possible. And they saw Saturn moving very slowly. It takes about 29 and a half years for Saturn to move around the zodiac. So the more personal planets like Mercury, Venus, and Mars move much more swiftly, and of course the moon is the swiftest moving. So the ancients were always looking up and noticing that Saturn was this kind of timekeeper, the longer, slower moving planet and distant from us, not as bright in the night sky, not as bright of a star. So when Saturn rules two signs, and ancient astrology that is set up to where the signs that Saturn rules are furthest away from the luminaries, the sun and the moon. their rulerships of Leo and Cancer. They're opposite of the rulerships of Saturn. So furthest away, most distance, therefore the coldest areas of the zodiac are Capricorn and Aquarius. So that rulership, first talk a little bit about rulership and what it means. When a planet is in its own sign, like when Saturn is in Capricorn, it can really embody its energy in a very pure way, and it can be more constructive. It's called domicile, being domicile, and it's considered an essential dignity under the traditional astrology. And those that have Saturn in one of its domiciles, which would be Capricorn or Aquarius, often have difficult lives, and they have to work really hard, and they have to put in a lot of effort, and sometimes it seems kind of depressing. I can attest to this. I do have Saturn in Capricorn. But after putting forth, a couple of Saturn cycles, I'm definitely now starting to reap those rewards of all the hard work put in. So I'm grateful now, although I may have been a bit depressed earlier in life about Saturn. I see the positive aspect now of how he wants us to create something bigger in our lives. And so that, to me, is one of the biggest lessons of Saturn. Now, Saturn came into Capricorn in late 2017, and he came into the sign of Capricorn. Pluto had already been there since 2008. So, from the moment that Saturn came in to Capricorn in late 2017, I could feel the powerful energy of that meeting that Saturn was going to have with Pluto. It was almost like it was ominous that it was going to reach that point in 2020 when there was that conjunction with Pluto. It's almost like the whole meaning was that date with Pluto. So we all know what happened in January of 2020. The World Health Organization announced a pandemic. I think it was within a day or on the day of the conjunction. It was very close. So that would have been January 12th, 2020. And that rocked our world. And by March, we were locked down. I mean, even earlier than March, we were starting to lock down, but the effect worldwide was immense. As we all know, it's completely changed our world. Jupiter shortly came in, I think also in January of 2020, and moved quickly through the sign. Jupiter takes about a year in a sign. It has a 12-year cycle around the zodiac. And Pluto has a 248-year cycle. So Pluto it'd been a long time since Pluto had been in Capricorn. And when Pluto's in Capricorn, it's usually there to, Pluto is the destroyer. It's the planet to unearth something that needs to be destroyed or transformed. And when Pluto is in Capricorn, normally these are these archetypal Saturnine structures in society. So, or personally, if we have something deep within our psyche that has been kind of past its expiration date and needs to be corrected, then we were to work on that while Pluto was in Aquarius. And you may have been experiencing things since 2008 with Pluto being there. And we'll talk more in another video about Pluto and Capricorn some more, and Pluto and Aquarius, which is coming up in late March. But right now Pluto's at that 29th degree of Capricorn. So any planet at a 29th degree is going to be very strong in its energy to complete what it started in that sign. And Pluto's going to be going back and forth over that 0 degree Aquarius point. So we're going to have reminders and just kind of chances to clean up our acts on whatever it is we've been working on. But for many of us, it's just the pandemic and trying to recover from that. And, it's amazing how these planetary conjunctions in 2020 really corresponded with the different peaks of the pandemic. So we had the one conjunction of Saturn and Pluto on January 12th. And then we had 3 conjunctions of Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn. And I want to give you those dates just because it's quite amazing how much it corresponds. But April 5th, 2020, November 12th, 2020, and I'm missing one of the dates. I think it was summer. June 30th, 2020. So if you look at the course of the pandemic, that was within a week or two of each of the peaks of the COVID-19 number of cases. So Pluto was expanding and on this theme that Saturn and Jupiter had created at the 22, 23 degree point of Capricorn. And it just kept kind of going over that range in the retrograde part of Jupiter. And that's why we had the 3 conjunctions. So that was fascinating. And then by the end of the year, Saturn had moved to completing its journey in Capricorn, and it moved into Aquarius. And right after it moved into Aquarius, then Jupiter moved into Aquarius. So I'm gonna save that for another video that I'll record right after this one, and just say that Pluto is still in Capricorn, so we still have time to complete our journey. And as far as the collective, the collective energies of our world are still transforming, and I believe will continue to transform as a result of the pandemic into the coming decades. So when I was born, there was a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Capricorn, and that was in 1961. And we all know that the 60s were a huge revolution in the world. They created a new energy that played out over decades and is still playing out. And I feel that this Jupiter Saturn conjunction that is happening at 0 Aquarius is just another iteration of that, and that we're also going to see huge changes in humanity. So that's part of the reason why I started the channel, and I look forward to having these conversations with you. And I would really like it if you commented and gave me a like to encourage the channel. And thank you so much for joining me. Mwah. Have a good day.